Welcome back to Fueled by Coffee Podcast. My name is Matt. I am your host, and today we have a little bonus episode coming to you here in the middle of November. It is, as many people know, I mean, this is we're an Eagles fan podcast sometimes, and it is the Eagles off week, so I figured why don't we just talk about not only where the Eagles are at, but some of our favorite players and memories from over the years. We've all been Eagles fans for a long time. So yeah, we're just going to dive right in. A little bonus episode for everyone. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, buy some merch, and check us out on Spotify and YouTube. Today, the coffee we are drinking is, I don't know what Pete has. I'm here with Pete, and I'm here with John once again. It's funny, both of you guys were already on episodes this month, so we're kind of, we're in a little bit
crossover.
Of a coffee crossover sandwich. If we can, I don't know.
I thought you were going to say crop dust.
A crop dust sandwich. Yeah, we were, I don't know what Pete's drinking, but we're drinking.
He's drinking alcohol, I can tell.
Nah, man, I have my third cup of coffee, chock full of nuts, dark roast.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the French roast, dark roast, $8.99 for the big container, cheaper than the store brand, better tasting, chock full of nuts.
Sponsor us. Yeah, there you
if
go.
You want that, Matt. I don't know. I think it's a respectable sponsorship.
I agree.
It's funny. We're also drinking chock full of nuts.
Whoa. There's no way they don't sponsor us.
Yeah, we have like the medium roast, just like the normal roast, but we put the Grinch sugar cookie creamer in.
Ooh. It's good.
It's that time of year, man. Man, Thanksgiving's right around the corner, so time to get my my sack full. But anyways, all right, so let's jump right in. The Eagles are off this week, and
They're 8-1.
They're 8-1, yeah,
Which is amazing.
As Eagles fans, though, so we tend to get like a little bit of a bad rap, rightfully so, I think, because there's a lot of people that ruin it. But
whoa, man!
I think
whoa.
Wait.
No. Here's the thing. I want to say my piece here because I agree that there are a lot of people that give us kind of live up to that poor reputation, but there's also countless other cities that have the exact same type of fan bases who don't have the same type of scrutiny, and I think that's the part that's frustrating. It's like, you're telling me that New York or San Francisco or all the other major markets don't have a bunch of really ignorant, rowdy fans? Like,
Yeah.
It's the same shit. Like, I'm sure there's like, Minnesota's got nice people, and sure, we were probably too mean to them every time they come in, but like, to single us out I don't know. You just see incidents happen where it's like not highlighted, but if it happens in Philly, it's like, oh, Philly's the worst.
I think that, like, so the reason why I'm prefacing that is, we all have our least favorite teams, right? The Eagles get hot whenever certain teams come to town. Like, Eagles fans get hot over time, right? We've all been football fans for a long time. Who is, out of all of us, what are your guys' least favorite, like, teams over the years, or just like ever? If there's one,
the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, yeah, automatically Dallas Cowboys, but another one would be the Tom Brady Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tom Brady's amazing, all that, Now that the smoke's cleared, it's like easier to be like, of course we respect the hell out of Belichick and Tom Brady, but when they were at their height, they were just so frustrating because they were like unbeatable, and then all the scandals with like maybe cheating or whatever. So I definitely say
Kissing
the
his
Cowboys
son.
and then the Patriots when they had Brady.
I think that would have been my two answers too. I mean, it's always the Cowboys. I get heated when the Cowboys are on. Like, when they were playing the Eagles last week, I think Dak was gonna like try and sneak it, or they were getting like real close to the goal line, and I was like, I hope someone dives over the head and fucking spears him head to head. Like,
hey, he had a good game.
Like,
he did.
He had a good game.
No, I'm not saying that he's
game of inches. Like, literally, like the touchdown that was the knee went down right before. Like, that is the closest non-touchdown I've ever seen. And then him stepping out.
Yeah.
Like, he played pretty flawless, honestly.
But my whole like, I just get heated when the Eagles play them, and like, everyone I talk to, like, if I watch those games with anyone, everyone's like, you're so ridiculous, like, and I'm like, I don't care, it's the Cowboys.
No,
like,
you're in the common.
You're in the common. I would say like, in those rankings, like, no matter who's coming second and below, like, the Dallas Cowboys are so much further ahead. Like, they piss me off so much more than any other team that it's like,
Pete had a whole section of an
Dallas so
article.
much.
Yeah.
Pete has a whole section of an article dedicated to how much he hates sports television blowing the Cowboys every Monday.
Well,
Dude, I had to stop watching ESPN because no matter what the Cowboys did, they were in the top 3 headlines of like, is Dallas the team to beat or is Dak not the quarter? It's always like the Eagles win and it's like, here's how Dak Prescott showed up in a big game and it shows that he can win in championship moments. And it's like, dude, it was a regular season game and he lost.
Yeah. Yep. And so to go back to the Tom Brady Patriots thing, I actually said this on a podcast before. No, I was describing like a bad relationship and I said, like Brady and the Patriots, I was like, I hated them while they were together, but now that they're apart, it's not so bad. you know. But then I started to hate the Bucks too. The Niners are getting on my fucking nerves now too because
they're probably number 2 for me right now. They're number 2.
That's a good one.
Ever since that NFC Championship game, all the fans do is bitch and like I'm sorry that your quarterbacks
and the players
are made of glass.
too, dude.
They're made of fucking glass.
The radio hosts.
Yeah,
it's the players. It was the fucking what's his name? Number
Fred
19,
Warner's
Samuel.
wife and Debo Samuel. That's the one that's been pissing me off because he kept saying like, I want a fair rematch, where our quarterback doesn't get hurt, which is fine. You're entitled to that. Maybe block and don't let his arm get ripped off by a vicious pass rusher. I don't know.
That's what I was going to say. Like, you just implying that we somehow cheated or something or wasn't fair, and it's like we fairly kicked your ass, like
Well, and I mean, like I said, how many of their quarterbacks went down before Purdy, and like what were the odds that Purdy got hot when he did, and like they had that run, which is great, but like I mean the Eagles fans could have said the same shit about the Rams. Oh, Carson Wentz, you fucking destroyed his knee. Oh, the game wasn't fair. But like,
no, it was his fault. He dove for the ball, and they were trying to make a play. Or he dove for the end zone. I mean,
like you look at the Super Bowl, like the Eagles. It was like you said, it's like a game of inches. The Eagles lose, and Jalen Hurts could have sat there and been like, "Oh, it wasn't fair, the holding penalty." But he was like, this fucking Terminator self, like, "Oh, I'm just gonna get better, man."
Yeah, he is literally the strongest leader in the NFL, in my opinion,
it's
especially
insane.
for his age. He's only 25. He's literally has like the wisdom. He's like stoic, which you can't say about young people. Like the maturity is beyond his years, and he'll never throw anyone under the bus. I mean, he's the perfect
leader. His answers
leader.
are consistent every week, man. Every week, it's like whether it's a win or a loss, it's like today we had an opportunity to grow as a team, and we haven't reached our peak, and each game is like just another step to the ultimate goal, and like he means that wholeheartedly. He's not just bullshitting to get out of questions. It's like when you lose to the Jets, you could react really rash and kind of non-logically or whatever word I'm looking for, but like they take that as, what, we lost. That game was a terrible game, but like it's a moment to kind of learn, and you look, that's the only loss they had. And
which
whether
is crazy.
You want to say, oh, their wins haven't been dominant enough, but like at the end of the game, at the end of the day, it's about winning. And like with
last
Jalen
year,
Hurts, he's always been a winner, at Alabama, at Oklahoma, he's been playing in these big games, and that has to help, when you're playing in national championship, SEC championships, Big 12 championships. That's like much larger than any type of. I mean, I go back to Carson Wentz and being like,
well, he went to high school.
He wasn't ready.
He went to high school in Texas, which is like basically you're already like a pro athlete when you play. When you're a starting quarterback in high school in Texas, the lights are already on you. So yeah, he's been like bred almost. You know what I mean? Like he's been his whole life been in these situations. He's been prepared. Yeah. Whereas like you're talking about Carson, the lights shined on him, but he was in North Dakota. You know what I mean? Like
right.
It's really funny to wrap this whole fan base thing. So 2 years ago, 2021. I went to see the Eagles play the Jets, and it was the week where it was Minshew versus Zach Wilson. And I know every Eagles game, I haven't gotten to see Jalen Hurts play in person yet. The one I went to with Pete and Aaron and their friend Nate, it was a preseason game, and it was Joe Flacco starting, and then Nick Mullins.
Was that before Carson got there? Or before Jalen got there?
No, that was Jalen.
They just didn't want to play him, right?
It was his first starting season. I think he had like a stomach bug or something, so they didn't play him.
Fuck.
That was so my first game. It was against the Patriots preseason. They lose like 25 or 30-0, and then
Joe Flacco.
And then the next game I go to, it's regular season. and Jalen like hurts his ankle or his wrist or something, and it was fucking Gardner Minshew starting. And I remember watching that game the whole time, just like, I don't know if I texted you, Pete, or who I was talking to, or if I saw a tweet and it was like these defenses are making it look like prime Peyton Manning and Tom Brady battling out there, because like Wilson, they were like it was like the duel of the mediocre quarterbacks. It was funny.
Yeah. Minshew is a wild card. You never know what you're gonna get.
But the thing is, like, the Jets fans, I was expecting, like, man, we're in New Jersey, like, this isn't gonna be good, and they were so funny because they were just so over the Jets. Like, we had this guy sitting in front of us, right, with his wife and his 3 sons, and one of his 3 sons was an Eagles fan. And they were like little kids, and you know, he was like joking around. Like, our whole section was like Eagles fans. We like almost took over. We were doing the Eagles chant after touchdowns and stuff, and you know, and I remember that, like, towards the end of the game they were getting penalties called on them, or maybe like they weren't, and this guy was like, come on, at least give us one. Like, they were really cool about it. But yeah, I mean, it could have just been that the Jets were having a fucking... I guarantee if you go to MetLife now, the Jets fans will just give you shit endlessly because now they finally... All right, so the Eagles are 8-1, which we touched on. What are the major injuries right now? I know Maddox is out.
Yeah, he's done for the year.
Dean is out. Dallas Goedert fucked the
fractured
Cowboys.
his arm, right?
I don't care what anyone says. That was a dirty... I remember when that happened. I was like, that was fucking dirty.
Really?
Like,
I thought that was clean.
What was he trying to do?
I kind of knew, though, right away. You saw his arm. You're like, I don't think that's a shoulder injury.
He wouldn't get up right away.
Dude's trying to fucking like wrestle him like it's WWE or something. Like, okay, now here's the thing. I'm always the one that's saying that football has turned into a sport for bitches because of all the penalties and like the, you know, you breathe on the quarterback wrong and you get a roughing the passer. But like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of a cheap hit, but it is what it is. I'm not going to bitch about it. You know?
I think Dallas lowers his head and just like initiates extra contact too, because he's trying to break a tackle. And so when you're about to get hit and then you're like trying to hit them too, it's going to be worse for you. You know what I mean? If you take a hit, okay. But if you're like trying to hit somebody as you take a hit, you're just like increasing the chance of getting hurt. And I feel like, I don't remember the play that well, but I feel like it was one of those plays where he like tried to lower his head and run through the guy, and then the guy lowered his shoulder and tried to blow him up, and it's like,
I guess the argument for the dirty play there was that he went out for a stiff arm and the guy kind of like locked his stiff-armed arms.
Yeah, it looked like an arm bar.
And he kind of rolled on him, right?
With the straight arm, but like, you could also argue that like, how are you supposed to tackle? Like, if you don't do that, you might get stiff-armed in the face and become a poster. So it's like, it's a physical play, not super. I don't think it had dirty intentions. I think Dallas Goedert's hard to bring down, and that's how he brought him down. And like, it wasn't like he grabbed him from behind or like like there's penalties, but you know, putting someone's arm in kind of a hold is not a penalty, I don't think, as a defensive player.
Yeah, I think if it was Zach Ertz, he would have went down.
Yeah,
that's my least favorite thing about Zach Ertz. He'd catch the ball and then he'd just sit down, you know, and it's like, that's why he didn't get hurt as much, you know. But Dallas Goedert is very physical, and I think that's what leads to some of his injuries.
I'm hoping though, the thing I'm hoping that comes out of this as good is I'm hoping to see more Grant Calcaterra. I don't know why. I just really like, he's so tall. I think he's like 6'7" or something like that. Yeah, that's gonna win us a lot of games.
Yeah,
hey, he's gonna defense with your good looks.
I was gonna say he's gonna distract a lot of players.
Yeah, he's gonna. But I don't know. Yeah. So all right. So Goddard, Dean, and Maddox. Is that really?
No, there's more.
Right.
Well, I mean, you got Jalen who's nursing a knee injury. I mean, he's not hurt
officially,
but like obviously he's hurt, and then he just got hit again. So this is a big week for him to be off.
We had Lane.
We're getting what's his face back, the right guard, Cam Jurgens.
I was just gonna say Cam Jurgens was hurt, and the guy who started from Stein, I think Steen. He fucking balled out.
He made that big play to recover that fumble too.
Yeah, he had a great game. And then Lane was shooken up, but you know, I guess he's fine. You know, but that's always a question.
And Bradbury and Slay both went down in the like core last drive of that game. Everybody's kind of banged up.
Yeah, it's always the corners, man. Always the corners
with the Eagles, especially. It's always.
Yeah.
Remember when wasn't it 2019 Darby and Mills?
Oh my God!
And
there
I love Darby.
That was that team that made it to to New Orleans when I saw him and like Cravon LeBlanc had,
he
had the big pick on Drew
on
Brees.
the first play. Yeah,
I
It
remember
was
that
like
game.
Chandon Sullivan.
Why didn't they keep fucking LeBlanc? That one always blew me away. You know, I thought he was a great nickel.
I did like
great
him.
inside corner. You know,
He was just like not expected to be that good, and he really showed up. I guess I don't know if he was where Avonte Maddox was, but talk about a guy that's injured like every year. I mean, I love Avonte Maddox, but it feels like every single year.
It might be his last year, honestly.
They might replace him with Ricks next year, honestly.
Eli Ricks is probably my favorite corner on the team right now. I wanted them to draft him so bad because whenever I look at the draft, I always look at Alabama's defensive backs because I think Alabama cranks out, I mean, some of the best players, but I think personally they draft, you know, if you draft an Alabama corner, you're probably going to get a good corner. And I remember reading about this guy who was going to go undrafted because he was only there for like 1 year or something, and maybe he had character concerns or something like that. But like I looked at his stats, he had like 7 interceptions or something, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" You know. And then the Eagles signed him, and I remember
he had an injury.
Yeah, he had some kind of knee injury or something that like made him undraftable. But I remember when the Eagles picked him up, I was like, "No way!" Because you ever look at the draft and your team never picks any of the people you want.
Yep.
It's always really cool when you're like, no way, they actually like got somebody that I thought was good, you know?
Yeah, I think Ricks, if he continues to, because John was saying off air, he's made some really good plays this year, and like of course he's gonna get fucking toasted, but like when it's that's the only, that's where we have this like kind of back and forth, like as a fan base, I guess, is like, it's like, oh, you need to let the young guys play. But then when the young guys play and they get absolutely destroyed, it's like, oh, no, we need someone else.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, I guarantee Slay got fucking toasted at the start of his career. I guarantee, like there are some, like it's very hard to be a player who comes straight out of college and looks like an all-pro. I feel like some of the Eagles' best players are ones that are long tenured and they weren't flashy at first, but they grew into the role. And I think Ricks has a chance to. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Brandon Graham was the one that came to mind. And even for someone like Tyreek Hill, after the Dolphins game, Tyreek Hill went on record and was like, yeah, Ricks was kind of a pain in my ass for a little bit. You know? So like for someone like
Tyreek Hill's the best receiver in the NFL.
But going back to the rookies, you're right. I think it was Matt who said this. Like, the fan base is so quick to get angry at them, but like it's also kind of unprecedented that they're throwing rookies into a team with expectations. It's like it's one thing when you throw the rookies in and you're like 8-8 or worse, and it's kind of like, well, we're gonna get angry at them, but we're not competitive. Now it's like we're expecting to win. So as you're throwing Ricks in because Maddox is out, Roby's out, you need somebody in the slot, and it's like throw him into the biggest Dallas Cowboys game we've played in probably 3 years, and he didn't play perfect. Yeah, what the hell do you expect? That's great experience for him though, and it's like,
it's a hard position,
you gotta look at it that way. Yeah. And you get, again, going back to, you get the wins. It's like, look at the plays where he struggled, try and fix the errors that he made, but like came out of a game with a lot of young players playing with a big win.
I think cornerback is also one of the hardest positions.
It really is.
It's like, that's my favorite position. That's why I was saying, like, I always look at the draft and stuff because I'm a huge fan of that position. And I personally think corner is the hardest position on the defense side. Quarterback obviously is probably the hardest position in football, but I personally think corner is like number 2 or number 3, depending,
Yeah. And one, I mean, just to wrap up this whole rookie discussion too, I mean, like when they threw in, was it Job?
Job. He's kind of fallen off.
They threw Job
in
against the Vikings, but I'm like, and people were freaking out, and it's like, well, what do you expect when he's guarding Jordan Addison, who is a runner,
great rookie,
for, I have him on my fantasy team. He's in the running for offensive rookie of the year, and then you look at Justin Jefferson, who's, before when he's not hurt, he's one of the best, if not the best receiver in the league, like top 3,
I'd say he's top 3.
So it's like, you're going to get that when you put in someone who's, he's been on the team, but he hasn't had starting reps yet. So I don't know. But
he was actually getting a lot of hype in the preseason, and I'm surprised Ricks has kind of leapfrogged him for like the rookie cornerback that's getting playing
Eli's
time.
Better. I think Eli Ricks is better, but they're both Alabama corners, and Eli's a little bit undersized compared to Job. Job is like a Richard Sherman type.
Bro.
He's probably like 6. Well, I'm saying body type.
No. I'm sorry. Fucking Jordan Love's having the day of his life today. Just threw another touchdown as I'm starting the Pittsburgh defense.
I wanted to mention at the start of the podcast, Pete actually has the NFL Red Zone going in the background, so we've got live game. And I've been checking my fantasy stats too. But yeah, so I guess playoff picture, the Eagles are number 1 seed in the NFC. That could change. They could come out of the bye and lose every game. Not that they're going to, but that could always change.
Who's number 2, you think? Like going forward, like if we were to win the number 1 seed, who do you see? Do you see the 49ers starting to clean stuff up, or you think they're going to continue, and they're going to end up falling to the wild card or something crazy?
I think the Niners are more mediocre, and this isn't me like trying to take shots. This is just purely my opinion, but like I don't think they're as top tier, and this actually plays into one of my points. I have 2 big fears with the Eagles, and this can play into those top teams from last year, right? Like you look at the Niners, you look at the Eagles, you look at the Chiefs. So I have 2 big fears for the rest of the season. One is going to be a Chiefs Super Bowl rematch, because it's either going to be where the Chiefs aren't as the Chiefs unarguably aren't as good as they were last year.
They don't, because they don't have the receivers.
So
that's the big argument, I guess.
My big fear would be doing a rematch and having a rematch in the Super Bowl, and the Eagles can't beat the Chiefs, because then the narrative is going to be, the Eagles suck ass because they can't. The Chiefs aren't even as good, and they can't win against a shitty Chiefs team. And then it's going to be like, the Eagles are always number 2. They're always little brother. Or like for my Dragon Ball fans, I was thinking about this. They're always going to the Eagles will always be the fucking Vegeta of the NFL.
You think we're going to lose 4 in a row like Buffalo?
No, but like it's that comparison of they're not going to be able to beat the Chiefs if there is a rematch. But then my other fear too is that the Eagles are going to be like within the last 5 years. You look at the Ravens or you look at the Titans, a team that's just dominant in the regular season. They're at the top of the playoff picture, and then they go into the divisional round and they lose a really close, low-scoring game to some wild card team or something. Those are my big fears for going through the rest of the season.
I personally don't see that happening. There's not many teams in the NFC that really overwhelmingly scare me. I would say San Francisco, Detroit, Dallas. Those are the 3 to watch out for. And then the kind of Seattle to me is like a team that is that Tennessee team that is, I don't know where they're going. I don't know if Geno Smith has it in him to take them past like the divisional round, but I don't know them well enough to make that statement. But just having watched what I've watched this year, I think, San Francisco picking up Chase Young kind of solidifies that line, and they're having a pretty big day today, honestly, with the
who are they playing?
They're playing Jacksonville, who's pretty solid team right now, and they've been in the backfield quite a bit so far. And Detroit, I think they're legit. I really do. The only thing I would say is I think if it came down to like Eagles and Detroit, I think the pass rush would affect Goff. I think they'd get to him. He's solid, but if you can get to him, he'll make some dumb decisions. And like they lost CJ, Gardner Johnson and stuff. So they're still really solid, but they lost some people.
He changed his name actually.
I did see that.
What is wrong with this dude?
Wait, what's his name now?
His name's dog shit. No, I'm just kidding. No, he did. He did change his name. I'll tell you in like 10 seconds.
I've never seen Pete laugh that hard. That was great.
I didn't expect.
That was a podcast moment for the history books.
That was a good one, dude.
Yeah. No, and it's in like, because see, like I'm the Eagles fan that like, I love the Eagles. I have faith in them. They're my team. I would never like just be like, oh, the Eagles had a bad season, so I'm not a fan anymore. But it's like one of those where like I try to be realistic, right? Because like, yeah, I think the Eagles are the best team in the league because like what you were saying, Pete, they find a way to win. And that's what football is about, right? You look at the Eagles Super Bowl seasons either last year or the year with Carson and Nick Foles, Yeah, there were some blowouts, but there were also games that were like 3-point games or 7-point games, and it's like it's normal to have close games. It's the teams that find a way to win. Those are the best teams. And so
I mean, look at last year. There was the Colts game that they had to win on the final drive. There was a Houston game on a Thursday night where it was like took them a while to get going.
Yep.
There was a I think Arizona last year was a scary game that we almost lost, and it's like this. What I think is just like looking at the Eagles roster, it is too talented on every level to not have one of those talented players step up in a big moment, whether it's the defensive line, whether it's the running backs, whether it's the receivers or Jalen. Like, I just think they're too well-rounded to drop the ball anywhere in a big moment.
And I think a really good part of that is the coaching staff too, because like you know, I go back and forth with this all the time. So in my lifetime, we've seen Andy Reid, we've seen Doug Peterson, I guess Chip Kelly, but I forget about that. And
didn't count.
Yeah, we blocked that out.
It's such a forgettable era. And then now Nick Sirianni, and like for me, I don't know, it's hard to say because like I love Andy Reid, he's a classic, right? But then I look at Nick Sirianni, I'm like, man, he has the chance to be one of the greatest Eagles coaches of all time, just because of like if they can win more than one Super Bowl with him, I think he would easily be best Eagles coach of all time because he finds ways to get the players to win. Like Doug always found a way, but it was like when it was too late, like they were like 4-6 and it's like, okay, we have to run the table to make the playoffs. Whereas Nick, it's like, remember they were 2-5 that first season he was the coach, and he got so made fun of for the fucking flower speech, but then they started winning, and ever since then, like I think him and Jalen have like that same, they like feed off of each other. So I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, his name's Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He changed his name to Ceedy Deuce. So it's like Ceedy Deuce. So it's like Ceedy Deuce because his number is 2 now. He's 2 in Detroit. He actually got hurt in week 2 and hasn't played since, and he might be out for the whole year. So it's like, what an idiot. Like, that guy's a total idiot. He just can't keep his mouth shut. Like, he shits on Eagles fans, even though he was a fan favorite and everyone wanted him back. He rejected our contract offer because he thought he could get more money, and then he was offered a deal that was like $8 million for 1 year, which is pretty good, but apparently we offered him more.
Yeah.
Whatever he got paid, I think it was 8 with Detroit. We offered him like 9 or 10, or we offered him a 2-year contract that would have been more.
It was longer term, and he was like, "Nah, I want the money."
Yeah, nah, man, I'm a baller. You know, it's like, come on. He was my favorite player from last year.
John was gonna get a jersey if he re-signed.
Yeah,
Dang.
He was my favorite. Like I said before, I'm a huge defensive back guy. And because he, like you're saying, he was a good player, he could play corner. He could play. He's kind of like Jalen Mills. He was better than Jalen Mills, but that's what Jalen Mills was. Jalen Mills was a safety at LSU, and then we drafted him basically to play corner, and then we kind of played him at both positions, and he had minor success depending, but you know
that was a Chip Kelly experiment, wasn't it? Wasn't that a Chip Kelly experiment?
I don't remember if he got drafted by Chip Kelly.
Or was it 16? I think they drafted him in 16, yeah.
He might have been one of the last draft with Chip Kelly. But yeah, Doug Peterson, I feel like used him pretty well. Darby was my favorite from that era. I thought Darby was the best.
2016.
Okay, yeah. Dude, I feel like the Eagles have the worst luck with corners. Like they can't
draft them, you know, same thing with receivers until, you know, recently, but
they don't prioritize the right. Okay, so like in terms of drafting, Howie's had 2 pretty good years, but like I remember when I was watching the year they drafted McPherson, and I was like, why? I was like, this guy is like so random. And then like you look at last year, and like I'm happy, or this year I'm happy with Carter. I was really, really hesitant to be excited about Carter just because of his track record, but he is one of those rare players that made an impact right from the start of the season.
I think he's gonna win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
But he's like, I'm okay. I've come to terms with like, okay, because it was more so like I wanted to be like, my mindset going into that was like, all right, prove it. Like, prove why the Eagles should have picked you.
And he did in literally the first drive he was on.
Yeah, I remember we were like, we watched the Patriots game together, and it was like, where's Carter? Come on. And like, it was like the first drive we were like, holy shit, this guy's insane.
Yeah,
you know?
There he is.
Yeah. He just goes right through the middle. Like, that's just a different type of strength.
and
to
like,
do that. You know?
And I don't know if you guys saw, but like in the Dallas game, people were like, "Oh, where was Jalen Carter?" He was getting triple teamed, not double teamed, triple teamed, because he's just that dominant. So, but like I remember coming into this year, I was like, I wanted them to pick one of those top 3 corners. I wanted Witherspoon or Gonzalez, or
I wanted Gonzalez. I thought Gonzalez was the better of all of those corners.
But I'm okay with the Carter pick now. Honestly, I'm like, okay, that's fine, because I'm a big defense guy. I love watching defensive games.
Same.
So like, but yeah.
And at the end of the day, I mean, all the positions are important, but when your defensive line is as dominant as the Eagles, that makes it easier to have a little bit of a less skilled secondary, because they get to the quarterback so fast and put so much pressure on them that it's just like, you're never really going to get cooked too bad. Now I'll say that, and then they'll get cooked in the next few weeks, and I'll look like an idiot.
Yeah, but you're right. You're right.
It's just offensive line, defensive line makes it easier to win games when you have the best in the league, and
we
they
do.
Let's talk about the rest of the season, and then let's move on to some fun like nostalgia points. The rest of the season, the Eagles are 8-1. What do we see them finishing as? Who do we see them losing to, if at all?
Hit it.
And I'll give you the specifics so you know the scenario. We have Monday Night Football in Kansas City, Eagles versus Chiefs after the bye week.
Loss.
I say close game, but a loss as well.
Yeah, it's just Patrick Mahomes, man.
I fucking, after the Super Bowl, and it's not, and I need to say this for the record. I fucking hate Patrick Mahomes ever since the Super Bowl, because like I was a Mahomes fan from the time I started watching football again, and he was like, it was his first year. I was like, wow, this guy's fucking awesome. I was like, this guy's really cool. And then that Super Bowl, the holding call at the end of the game, I was like, oh man, that sucks. But when they showed it, what did it for me was the Tom Brady shit when they showed the replay. And it was Mahomes pointing at it, like calling for the flag, and then they threw the flag after he called for it. It was like they didn't throw anything until he was like, oh.
No, they showed the ref with his pants around his ankles and Mahomes blowing him.
Yeah. That's what did it for me. I remember in that moment watching the end of that game, I was like, fuck Patrick Mahomes. I hate this guy. Like,
he's good at blowing guys.
I don't want to get too distracted, but I do want to say, going back to like least favorite teams, I think there was a time where I really liked the Chiefs. I wanted to see Andy Reid do well. I like Patrick Mahomes. I'm over it, and they're up there as like one of the teams I hate the most, because Patrick Mahomes isn't as annoying as Tom Brady in his prime, but like just some of the faces he makes really pisses me off.
Man,
I really picky.
Man, me and Trav like going to Taco Bell after the games, and we just
from
like
the refs he blows, just really like why that ref?
I like how Cleve Blakeman's foreskin tastes in my mouth
too, which is like,
yeah, I mean Jalen makes some fucking stank faces too. I don't know. I think the Chiefs are fine. I'm indifferent. I used to really like Patrick Mahomes, but then after they won 2 Super Bowls,
I'm just over it.
Now I'm over it.
commercials.
But I get it. I
get
it. He's successful.
Me and Trav like getting
He's
tag
the
team by
best.
Cleve Blakeman.
He is the best. He is exciting to watch.
So we're 0-1.
Okay, all right.
And then going after Thanksgiving, Sunday, 4:25 at home versus the Bills. I have that as a win.
That's a win.
I think he's going to blow the game. Josh
I don't think the Bills are as good as
Josh Allen's
going to
blow the game. It's going to be a close game, and it's going to be the fourth quarter, and it's going to be like their last or second last drive, and he's just going to throw a fucking bonehead pick.
So we're 1-1 right now, and we go to the next week, Sunday, December 3rd, 4:25 again. Niners at the Eagles.
Eagles.
Man.
I say that's a cutthroat, physical, defensive, low-scoring Eagles victory.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be close.
I think the defense not stifles, but shuts down the Shanahan offense, gets to the quarterback. But I think the San Francisco defense does the same thing, and I think it's just a matter of one play, one drive, a little bit of toughing it out. We're 2-1, and then huge game. Most important day of the year. It is my birthday, December 10th, Sunday, 8:20 p.m. at Dallas. And I think that the Dallas Cowboys ruined my birthday because they fucking suck and they win at home against us.
The Eagles always seem to lose in Dallas. So
it always seems like it goes 1-1 with Dallas. So
yeah, whoever's at
especially
home.
Having one at home, it's like Dallas is going to have more motivation. and they're a good team. So this is like
I agree. I think
hate
that's
them,
a
but
loss.
they're good.
I think
Mike
it's a loss.
McCarthy's fucking fat white ass is gonna be
And they-
all jolly
they
on the
play
sideline.
they play very well at home too. So it's like going into Dallas, especially after that stretch of games. If we can come out 2-2 in that 4-game stretch, I'm cool with that. To be honest,
Yeah, I see Rain Dakota Prescott having a win.
All right, what's next?
So we're 2-2 here, and then Sunday, December 17th, 4:25, we travel to Seattle to play the Seahawks.
Win.
I have this as another loss.
Really?
The Eagles
I
haven't
think it's a
beat
win.
Seattle in
Yeah.
a while.
We never beat Seattle,
Seattle's
but
tough.
I
dude.
just don't see Geno Smith winning. I don't see him winning against a good team. I think they're one of those teams where if you're under 500, they'll win. But I think when they go against a really good team, I feel like they show their true colors, and I think the Eagles win. I don't think Geno Smith's going to beat us personally.
That is partially what I think, but also their defense is pretty solid. And then you go into Seattle after the stretch that we have to play there. Their crowd can make an impact, and I just think that could be a letdown game with how difficult this stretch of games is and the traveling.
Yeah, I agree.
You go to Dallas and then one more time zone out to Seattle. Tough place to play.
Lost in Seattle.
Yeah, that's fine.
We don't all have to agree. We can
Well,
have
they
different
make
opinions.
it simple. Let's agree. Geno is going to throw enough ham on this sandwich to pull a win.
All right, so now we're moving forward, I guess, a week or so. Merry Christmas, 4:30. We get a present. We get to play Tommy DeVito and the New York Giants at home.
Loss.
Big old W.
Blowout loss.
Big W. The
Tommy
Giants
DeVito's
going
to be bringing his mom's Christmas dinner
Yeah,
with
his
him.
mom didn't tuck him in that night, so he's gonna
fucking pissed.
He's gonna throw us some coal.
We got Jonathan Gannon's return, 1 o'clock, New Year's Eve day. Cardinals, I think they take a big old poop on Johnny G and his stupid face.
Yeah, he does have a very
He's probably going to
punchable
be
face.
interviewing for some other position the week before and
jar
not
of
game
mayonnaise
planning
looking
enough.
ass.
Yep.
Maybe Kayvon Wallace will come back for the Cardinals and, tear him up a little bit too.
Yeah. All right, so it's 4-3.
That's a win. And
Four,
then
three.
January 7th, there's not even a time yet. Eagles travel to the Giants. That could be a game that means nothing, that they could lose, or it could be a game that they just need and they win easily.
Chip Kelly's wet dream.
Let's
Marcus
say
Mariota.
in this scenario they leave their starters in for the first half, and we roll away with a win.
Yeah,
And
I
what
would
does that
agree.
put us 5?
5-3. That's
so
what
we
I
would
said.
finish the season
13 and
13 and
4.
4 again. Yeah. So
I think that's incredible. That if they can come out of this stretch 5-3, I'll feel confident going to into the playoffs that we're in good position, and that should, in theory, solidify home field advantage. And
yeah,
no team frightens me at the link really. I know there's gonna. What's up?
I was gonna say, what if we win every game, 16-1? That would
blown
be
away.
We go into any playoff game with the biggest pair of balls. Like
Jalen Hurts got stem cell treatment on his knee, and he's gonna come back like Goku from Dragon Ball.
Like Patrick
I don't even
Mahomes
want
in the
that.
Super Bowl.
Well, 16 and excuse me, 16-1. 16-1 is screaming. Come on, guys.
Sorry.
Come on.
Go ahead. 16-1. 16-1.
Yeah, you're 16
16-1.
again.
16-1 is screaming first round exit disappointment. I want to
I
lose a
think so.
couple games and be ready to go in the playoffs,
It is so funny how losing is good sometimes.
We got to build character, man.
We got to get knocked down to be built up.
Yeah.
Like losing to the Jets.
You got to have Rocky 1 to have Rocky 2.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is just
Hell yeah.
crazy. The same thing happened last year when we lost to the Commanders. We lost to Washington with Heineke at quarterback. And hey, they played a great
That
game.
fucking
Bitch.
There was some bullshit calls in that game.
I fucking
Dallas
hate
Goedert got
Heineke.
face masked and knocked out.
That one made me so mad. That was like he literally tried to rip his head off. That was unbelievable.
And he got knocked out for like a month. So it was like not only did we not get the penalty, he fumbled, we lost, and Goddard was out for a month.
And don't forget that penalty we got on that roughing the passer or whatever, unnecessary roughness. And that was like he just cuddled him. Like it was like such a clean play, and they called that penalty, which basically lost us the game.
All right, so to wrap up this podcast, let's kind of just talk about some of our favorite. I know Pete and I have kind of talked about it before with his game going to New Orleans, watching the NFC Championship game, right? But John's never been on one of these episodes. Let's talk about just favorite Eagles of all time. Maybe favorite.
We should guess.
Maybe favorite moments in time, like for the Eagles that we've seen throughout our lives. Let's close off with.
Can we guess our favorite? Like I guess yours
dude,
or
Pete's? It's so hard for me though.
Well, I know what Pete's is. It's Golden Tate.
No,
it's Vince Young.
No.
I'm trying to, or no, it's DeMarco Murray.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I'm trying to think like
no, it's Jordan Matthews.
Dude, that was such a weird failed experiment. How did Osmaw go from being the best corner to just nothing? I've never seen.
Dude, the dream team.
That was really surprising. Some of the other ones I was kind of like okay, but Osmaw I thought would have been really good. That one was very surprising.
So did everybody else when they signed him for however many $1 million, and then he was just garbage. But anyways,
yeah.
God, I don't even know who my favorite of all
favorite
time.
Like, can we do top three?
I was gonna say I have three.
Yeah,
I have
top three.
So I have like two favorites, and one of them is like more of like a not like he's my favorite, but he's a sleeper.
Personally, there's no wrong answer. It's your favorite.
That's true.
So you don't have to feel like you have to really justify it that much.
Pete's friend Nate asked me this when I went to see that Patriots-Eagles game with them, and I was like, dude, I have no fucking clue. He's like, who's your favorite of all time? I was like, I have no idea, dude. I was like, that, but
just don't say McNabb.
John, I know who John's favorite is.
I actually have no idea.
As a quarterback, it's not
Nick Foles.
No, hell no. I like Nick Foles, but I'm not a pocket passer quarterback.
No,
guy.
it's Jeff Garcia.
Michael Vick. Michael Vick.
Mark Sanchez.
Yeah, Sanchez. Michael Vick is my all-time favorite player. He changed position. You know, I think he's so exciting, and I think he was unbelievable. And then I'll just say all my three because I have them ready. Deshaun Jackson's number 2. I think Deshaun Jackson is like one of the most exciting receivers and return men and all that. And then I guess if I had to say a third that's like more current, I'd probably say Jalen, just because he's just like I was talking about before, the leadership at like I'm 26, he's a year younger than me, and he's more mature than I'll probably ever be.
Yep.
And like it's so unbelievable to see such a young guy like have that maturity, that leadership, that confidence, that work ethic. So it's like he's such an inspiration, you know, to anyone that watches sports. Yep. And I think he's a great player, and he reminds me a little bit of Michael Vick with the mobility. So
he's I can't tell you how many times I've been like, man, like why the fuck do I even do what I do anymore? Like with my writing, and then I go on and I watch a bunch of like Jalen Hurts motivational things, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm ready to go take on the world.
He's
now.
A dog. He's just like
I'm just
the
like
coolest.
That's what I needed.
He backs it up. He can talk the talk. He can walk the walk. He's just all around great player.
Yeah, for me, it's tough to pick a favorite because, like I've always said, like I watched football as a kid growing up, so it was that McNabb, Brian Dawkins era, right?
Dawkins is on my list.
The early Andy Reid era, and then when I got back into football, it was the Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz era.
I think I know yours.
So, well, who do you think?
Definitely Nick Foles. Gotta be on the list.
Nope.
Ah, wow. Deshaun Jackson.
No.
Jason Kelsey?
No.
Is it going to be old or new?
The ones on my list are from the last like 5 or 10 years.
Zach Ertz?
No, God.
I don't know. I'm losing Steve. Well, Jalen Hurts, obviously, right?
Hurts is up there just because, like what John said. Yeah, it's the whole he's the whole package. He's motivational. I
thought you liked Foles a lot.
I do. I love Foles, but it's when I was making this list, you're gonna hate my other pick.
McCown.
No,
I thought you were gonna say Josh McCown. I was all right.
No.
All right, just keep going.
No, and so like one of my others is, and it's funny because he had -2 yards on Thursday night, but Miles Sanders is up there. I just love. I know.
Are you serious?
That's a surprise.
Say what you. I mean, wow. Where John is a defense guy. I'm a running back guy. Like that's my favorite position. And I remember when they drafted Sanders, that was like the second full season that I was watching again, and I was like, oh man, this is really cool. This guy went to Penn State, and I remember that first season he had his blunders, right, the fumbles in the Lions game and whatever, but that 2019 season, so that those 2018-2019 seasons are two of the most memorable I think I've ever watched, because like as much as I love watching the Eagles be 8-1, right, or go 14-3 like they did last year, there's something about that like underdog season where it's like, oh man, they have to win out, and then somehow every week they pull the rabbit out of the hat and they win. Every game is an anxiety-inducing trip of heart palpitations. So like those 18-19 seasons, and then they squeak in, and then they have the playoff games, and it's like those seasons are so memorable, and I have such a fondness for him. So like Miles Sanders' first year, I know 2020 and 21 he was kind of like getting hurt and stuff, but like there's just something about Sanders that I love, and I know he's shit in the bed in Carolina right now, but
I was happy they didn't re-sign him.
Yeah,
personally.
and we've all talked. It's the Eagles O-line, right? Like you throw out most guys back there, and they're gonna have some form of success.
Exactly.
But Sanders. It's a nostalgia thing. I love Sanders.
He's my lucky number. 26 has been my lucky number. That's my birthday. So when he chose 26, I automatically was like, I like this guy, But then I thought his last year, most of his success was because the offensive line, and I thought not re-signing him was a good decision. And then it was the right decision,
He was a player that like kind of regressed. Like his rookie year, he was really good as a pass catcher. I remember early on in the season, Carson throwing like some 30-yard dot to him down the sideline. I was like, whoa!
He definitely had his moments. Yeah.
I was like,
I thought he had his moments.
Or that season, the one that sticks out, the one thing that sticks out so fondly in my mind is that second to last game where it's like the Eagles have to beat Dallas at home, and at the end of the game, Sanders rips off this like fucking 60-yard run down the sideline, and he goes down, and it was like, oh my god! And that was a moment for me that I'll always remember. But yeah, Sanders and Hurts, and then my sleeper is like, you guys are gonna be like, what the fuck? But you guys remember Josh Adams?
Oh yeah, number 33.
Yeah.
Dude, he threw up the 215. Yeah. I remember that guy. Yeah.
So that was like.
I liked him. He ran funny. He had a funny run.
Well, it's because like most, like to be running back, you want to be more like compact, right? To kind of like sneak through. He was like tall.
Yeah, he was really tall.
He looked dumb.
Yeah,
when he ran, maybe it's just him being tall, but he just looked goofy.
I watched this whole video about him like coming out of Notre Dame and like why he was undrafted and stuff. But like I just remember that year watching that, and I was like, because the backs they had at the time, what was it, Smallwood and Clement, and then Adams, and I remember like Smallwood and Clement were
they believed so much in him.
They were so
That's
like
what they did with Kenny Gainwell, which they should.
Like Smallwood and Clement were so like mediocre that 2018 year, and then Adams was always, I think he was the leading rusher on the team that year, and I remember
you're right.
I was like, this guy's fucking every time he touched the ball I was like, this is awesome. So like
I don't know why they didn't stick with him. I thought he was better than Smallwood.
He's just
Clement. I get Clement was a power back.
Yeah,
and in that system at the time, it was like perfect to have the LeGarrette Blount and then to have the more flashy quick back made sense. So Clement at the time was serving a purpose, and you need that guy. But Smallwood was never that good. He had a couple flashes. I thought they should have kept Josh
Adams
over him.
Yeah, no. So I don't know. I've always loved Josh Adams. I'll still go back and watch like 2018 highlights like of games, and like whenever, like I think the Saints game was not the playoff game, but the one that the Eagles got their asses reamed out. I'm pretty sure Adams had he was the only shining part of that game that day. So I don't know. But yeah, what about you, Pete? If you had to say a top three or a top,
yeah, I'll do top three, but I guess two of them. There's like two ties. Right now, my favorite player is Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, he's great.
He got the Temple Association.
Absolutely.
He's local to Camden, and I actually played pickup basketball against him at Temple.
So no way.
Every time he does anything, I'm like, I play basketball against him. So
that's pretty. Hey, that's a very good flex.
Yeah.
It was funny, like that. So there was two occasions. The first time he was in college, and he was actually in a criminal justice class with me as well. But one time in college, he played. And we were playing with like football players, and it was just like they're so freakishly athletic and dominant. But then he came back after getting drafted by the Cardinals with like a posse and was playing, and it was like notable, like, oh my god, this guy's been lifting. Like he was much larger than he was the first time you saw him, and he's freaking dominant. Like he's a really underrated pass rusher in the league, and he comes up big in big moments. Like you might not see him all game, but when you need it, he gets 1.5. And something that he doesn't get credit for is all the sacks that he are like near misses,
Creates,
but where he forces the quarterback to do something stupid or like gets an arm.
Yeah.
He's really good at getting his arm on the football, kind of like that Brock Purdy play where he
shattering
ripped his
people's
arm
elbows.
off. But like he does that a lot, where it's like you force him to get rid of it or hit him. It's a forward.
He's
pass,
just
but
around. He's
like a
around the
duck.
ball.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he wears number
And he's
7.
tough.
He wears number 7, which I
Yeah.
hate when people wear number 7 because I feel like only Michael Vick should have wore 7. Like I feel like, especially in Atlanta, which is fucked up, they let people wear 7. But anyway, just to say something about that is he's the only player I've seen wear 7 since Michael Vick that I was like, that's deserved. The Rock the 7.
he's the new 7, man. He's the new 7.
He earned that
Yeah.
7. I'm sure Michael Vick would agree if he
Yeah.
watches Eagles
Yeah.
games. You know.
All right, Pete.
No
so
doubt.
Hassan Reddick, was he cool?
Hassan
Was he
Reddick.
cool in person? Side note.
I mean, I think he was pretty nice. I do recall him getting in like a little bit of a argument with someone that he was playing against, and I mean, it was like basketball feud and kind of like stubbornness, two stubborn people going at each other where they had to be like separated and shit. But he didn't come off as like arrogant or anything. He seems like a really down to earth guy that's kind of like, he's an underdog story. He walked on to Temple
Wow.
and became one of the best players and like a captain on a probably one of the best Temple teams in history and definitely the best since 2000.
They had
Temple's
PJ
been
Walker.
dogged. Yeah.
Yeah.
Phillip, who's now PJ again.
Yeah.
They had chosen one Anderson.
Yeah.
Whatever he changed his name to. Jahad Jahad Thomas they were just a really good team.
Yeah.
They beat Penn State, almost beat Notre Dame. It was an electric year.
PJ Walker's
like,
a dog.
He's really it's awesome that he's like a Camden kid who's walked on to Temple and now he's playing at the Eagles as arguably the best
Full circle.
pass
The
rusher.
full circle throwback. Yeah.
Which brings me to my next favorite player.
Nick Foles.
So I'll go Nick Foles. Just like I watched him at Lehigh. It was like one of the last years that the Eagles did training camp at Lehigh.
2012. Was it 2012?
I remember I think his rookie year because
Pete's
I
got
remember
a
like
great fucking
because it was
article
Michael
about this.
Vick. It was Michael Vick and it was Nick Foles, and I remember I was there. It was fucking July, and you're watching all these stars, but like Nick Foles caught your eye in training camp. It was like, man, this guy is. I don't know. He just never got the credit that he deserved his first time around as just a guy that makes passes. He has an incredibly strong arm, and when he's accurate and in a rhythm, like I'm not going to say he's Tom Brady, but he's got that kind of effect where it's just like
Clutch
completions.
I agree.
effective.
When he's in rhythm, he is next to not many guys.
And
He's
I will
very
say
good.
that season, if they had beaten New Orleans when Alshon let the ball slip through his hand, I think there was a legitimate argument to be like, Nick Foles controls this team so much better than Carson Wentz. You'd be stupid to not at least consider keeping him because
I
it just
don't
seemed
know
like
why they didn't keep him.
it just seemed like every time he stepped under center, the team was more efficient. Everybody played harder, and
Yeah.
there's just like a specific fit, It's like he didn't work anywhere else per se, mostly because when he went to Jacksonville, he got hurt right away, and then after that, he never really got another chance. But like his first time around, he was incredible. I don't know why the hell they traded him for Sam Bradford. Like,
It was
what
Chip
the
Kelly,
hell?
dude.
what the hell? And then I just think it's awesome that he came back and got that Super Bowl win, and he's also just a great person. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
he's a really good teammate and just a respectable guy. And yeah, I did write a really long article about
It's
how
really
like
good.
his transparency and kind of humbleness is just admirable,
So my whole thought too with this Nick Foles thing and this Jalen Hurts thing is like, what's really funny? So Hurts has only been the Eagles quarterback for since 21. Like I know he was drafted in 20, but he didn't start. He wasn't the starter. So he's only been the starter. This is his third year. And last year they did that whole segment with Hurts and Vic and McNabb about like Philly's greats. It was like the Philly legends.
That
and
was
they
awesome.
never did
I
that
loved
shit
that
with
they did
Carson. And it's so funny how like
Because he never proved himself enough.
there's this like blank point in time where it's like, okay, we went from McNabb to Vic and then to Hurts. Like people like almost like just don't even acknowledge that time period, which is crazy. Other than that, we won a Super Bowl and that was it.
I think they will, but I think Nick Foles overshadowed Carson's some of his accomplishments.
And I mean, you look at all the reports that came out to those 2018, 2019 seasons, and like, because I do remember that every time Foles stepped in, it was like he was spreading the ball around. He wasn't just throwing to Zach Ertz. He wasn't like Foles is efficient. Like he just tries to be efficient. And so like I remember, I felt like we didn't see a lot of Alshon Jeffrey in 2018 until Foles stepped in, and I was like, whoa. I was like, Alshon Jeffrey just came out of nowhere, and it was that was his guy, so.
Yeah, dude. And in that 2019 season, it was like they needed a perfect scenario to make the playoffs, and he came in and delivered that perfect scenario. And I remember like Bears had to win a game or something for us to get in, and that worked too. It was just like somehow it was meant to be, but he had an energy that nobody else, or not nobody else, but that Carson Wentz did not have with the team.
I so vividly remember that 2018-19 season with that whole playoff scenario. I had just quit my job at fucking Stitch Fix, and I remember because it was just like an open stretch of like I don't have to go to work. I remember watching Foles go into Los Angeles on Sunday Night Football and winning. I remember the fucking Texans game where he's that fucking deep ball he threw to Nelson Aguilar. Like
didn't he get knocked out of that game too for one play and then he came back in?
That was the game he got speared, I think. Yeah. But then that was also the one where Clowney almost ripped his head off and they didn't call a face mask.
That one made me so mad. I hate Jadeveon Clowney after that.
And it was so funny because I remember I read or heard something after that game, and it was like Foles was one of the offensive linemen was like, that was the angriest I've ever seen Nick Foles, but he didn't curse once. He was like yelling at the ref, and I didn't hear him say one bad word.
Yeah, he never curses.
But
faithful.
That is such a memorable, like nostalgic time for me. Is that run with Nick Foles? Like holy shit, dude. But yeah, all right. So you said Foles, and then.
So I just want to say, so that's kind of like Hassan Reddick's my favorite right now. Nick Foles is like just one of my favorites from that era. And I want to throw in that, like, I think Jason Kelce, Brandon Graham are two more from this era that are like, they are Eagles. Like they are the definition of Eagles, and I love them. Not my favorite players per se, but like I love them.
What about Fletcher Cox? What the heck?
Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox. But like, if you're looking at two, Kelsey's got the attitude.
Yeah,
Brandon Graham's kind of that dog who brings the energy, and then Lane Johnson's just like a literal wall that doesn't let people through. And Fletcher Cox is a quietly consistent, dominant player. It's just those are the core four of this era of Eagles.
Yeah.
And then I'm probably gonna piss you off, John, but I gotta throw this in here. Donovan McNabb. He was my first favorite player, dude.
Disgusting.
I
just don't like him as a person.
Him and Brian Westbrook, and it's simply because they were my first favorite players.
Yeah, I get it. Michael Vick was my first favorite player because I got into football a little bit later, and I'm a little bit younger than you. And Michael Vick was like that was my McNabb.
I remember, that was like around the time John and I started jamming in high school. We were like freshmen, and I remember he got really into football, and he was all about fucking Michael Vick and the Eagles. I remember like we were out throwing a football in your parents' yard, and you're like talking about it and stuff. So.
McNabb was a little bit before my time, like before I got into it. I do remember them going to the Super Bowl and losing to the Patriots.
That favorite player is totally like, I was raised an Eagles fan, like out of the womb. I was born on a day where we beat the Cowboys, and my dad was watching the game, and he used to take me to Lehigh when they were doing training camp every year. So like I'm this little bean, and I'm just watching like professional football players, and Donovan McNabb had the jersey, just like loved him.
I mean, he is probably the most successful Eagle. I would say, quarterback wise, like if you had to pick from like Randall Cunningham to Jalen Hurts, who hasn't done enough yet, I would say McNabb is the easiest one to say. He is the most successful franchise quarterback for the Eagles. So
Now let's wrap.
And then hold on, I wanted to throw one more thing in, Matt. Okay. Honorable mention: Jordan Howard.
Hell yeah!
Fuck Miles Sanders. Jordan Howard should have been our back. Period.
I loved Howard.
LaShawn McCoy, I think, was the best running back in Eagles history, in my opinion. Westbrook was great, but I think LaShawn McCoy was better than Westbrook. But I do think Westbrook doesn't get enough credit for how successful the Eagles were in the 2000s. I think he was a really good back.
And I just want to throw in, this is a new segment called What's Your Least Favorite Time in Eagles History? And it was when they traded McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, and Jeremy Maclin within a span of a year.
Those are my favorite players besides Vic.
Just fucking dismantled an incredibly competitive team and made our lives miserable.
Yeah,
they got Alonzo though. Come on.
See,
they got Alonzo, DeMarco Murray,
dude. He
Sam
did make
Bradford.
He did make us shut up that first game against the Falcons. Everybody who was shitting on Kiko Alonso because it was a terrible trade. he had a one-handed interception in the end zone as a middle linebacker, and everybody was like, "Oh shit," But then after that, he didn't do shit. But he did make us think for a second.
Jordan Matthews and Riley Cooper, what a dominant wide receiver tandem.
I can't believe that. If that was today, like the Eagles would have got so much more shit. He got in trouble for saying the N-word.
Oh my God!
And but he played another season for the Eagles, and he actually had like one of his best seasons after that incident. But you know what would have happened today if someone were to say something like that and then play? Like, they let him play after saying that.
That's very Chip Kelly of Chip Kelly to do that.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly probably felt the same way. He probably said that word, too. Okay. Well, no, so, like, how you are with that Eagles era of, like, Vic, Macklin, Jackson.
That was my favorite era.
That's how I feel. And, like, it's going to sound stupid because they're not even on the same level. But, like, the fucking Wentz, Sanders, Jordan Howard. Who else?
They were up there.
Who was a receiver at that time?
Travis Fulgham?
And
Dude.
No, not that
God
point.
bless him. I mean,
Greg
he
Ward?
helped us. Yeah,
but
legend.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that
Frank
Jeffrey, Aguilar, Wentz, Sanders, Howard era. That's kind of how I feel. It's a nostalgia thing.
They had a team. They had Ertz. They still had the pieces that he was mentioning. Jason Kelsey and the guys on defensive line. Like they had a team. Those guys were around for so long. Chris Long was amazing.
Yeah.
My brother.
He had us win that Super Bowl. Like I feel like if he wasn't on the roster. I don't know. Like he made a lot of key plays when we had that playoff run. He was a dog. So
and it's just a side note. Really cool thing about Chris Long. He played in St. Louis for a long time, and he played on the Patriots for 1 year, and then came to the Eagles for a few years. But he's like a Philly guy now. Like he does this Green Light podcast, and he is totally like when he's talking about the Eagles, it's we. And he'll talk about St. Louis and New England as them.
Yeah.
But like it's we. And he liked like the Phillies, goes to the Sixers game. So like he's the kind of guy that fit in really well in this city, only doing 2 or 3 years, enough to be like Chris Long's a Philly guy.
So let's wrap on this thought. Obviously, it's only Jalen Hurts' third year as a starter, but he's had so much success already. He could turn out like one of those quarterbacks. Like you look at a Mariota, he was successful for a couple of years. Whatever. I'm not saying they're the same at all, but we're talking about McNabb and Hurts. Do we think Jalen Hurts is going to surpass Donovan McNabb in his career?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
I think
so too. I remember saying, and I'll wrap on this. So my grandfather, he's in his 80s. He's been watching football he played football in high school, in the Navy. We're talking back when football was a man's sport still, where,
leather helmets.
Yeah, seriously. and so like I always talk football with him, and I remember when Hurts was going into his first year starting, and I said, man, because he's a big college football guy now. He's a Bulldogs fan. He's from Georgia, I was like, man, I could see Jalen Hurts being like on the level of Donovan McNabb, like that was, and he goes, I think he's going to be better. And this is coming from like a lifelong. He's like, I think he'll be better. Are you kidding me? Like, so. Wow. I think so.
That's a bold prediction, but I think he'll be right. I think he is right.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see. I mean, I don't want to look too far down the future, but like the O-line's going to go through some changes. There's going to be some changes on the receiving core. I don't know how you can afford to keep AJ and Devontae and Goddard.
I know. It hurts to think about that.
Here's my only. I don't even want to say my only thing with Jalen, because I know he's going to keep working and stuff, but it's all about decision making. And like, I would love to see him not. It almost looks like he second guesses or holds on to the ball a little too long sometimes. And I think I have PTSD from Wentz, where it's like he had an amazing start and all of a sudden he got like, he loved pump faking, and then all of a sudden that turned into fumbles and interceptions, and now he's just hunting. And it's like, I don't want to. I don't think Jalen Hurts will ever be that, but with a weaker line and less offensive weapons,
you start playing hero ball.
Like I think I need to see Jalen continue, and Jalen's got such a beautiful ball that I'm not too concerned.
He's got such beautiful balls.
Yeah,
he's beautiful ball.
He's pump faking and with his beautiful ball. And
no, but yeah, the thing with that was the other big thing I noticed when Foles would come in for Wentz is like Foles was, and I think I've said this on a podcast before, Foles was such just a fucking rip it and trust your receivers. And I feel like that's why Jalen was so great last year, is he was trusting guys. And now this year, I feel like he's in his head a little too much. And that's why he's kind of like,
he's in his feels, feelings. He's in the feels.
But then he delivers a ball on 4th and 8 to Dallas Goedert off on the sideline. That's just like gorgeous. And that's really, he always pulls those plays out when you need him. And I don't know. I feel like he had such a season last year that it's like we expect him to be Super Bowl Jalen Hurts every play, and like that's just
I
not.
hate that.
There were so many big plays. Not every play is going to be a big play.
He had beautiful balls last year, and it's like, how do you keep that up? You know, you're not always gonna have a good ball day.
Oh,
never live it down, man. Never live.
He had Super Bowls last year.
One statement changes your life.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I hope you made it this far. If you did, give this podcast a like and a review, and answer I'm trying to do these polls on Spotify. Who's your favorite Eagle of all time, or favorite football player if you're not an Eagles fan? But yeah, we'll see you guys all next week, because this is a bonus episode. John was on again. It's our Fueled by Coffee anniversary. We talked about music and life and all the things in between. So
can't wait to hear it.
Thanks guys for doing this episode. It was a blast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And I'm gonna go shine Jalen's balls.
Hey, we all should.